Hi, this is Bev for Do You Know, and we are touring the newly renovated Ridgewater College Wilmer campus today, and I have Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Dan Holtz. And Dan is our tour guide today. He's going to be narrating our segments. Dan, what are we going to see?
Well, I think we'll first take you over to the Agriculture and Veterinary Science Building, and then we'll stop over here at the Student Center, which we're on top of right now, and then finally visit the Admin Building.
And as someone who gets to hang out here quite a bit, I can tell you what a beautiful facility this is. It's student friendly. It's just the improvements have been amazing. Some of them big, some of them subtle, but we're looking forward to seeing them along with you.
We're currently standing in the Agriculture Center in Building C of the Ridgewater campus. And this whole area was renovated. The renovation started back in April of 2013, and it was completed by the end of August of 2013, just before students arrived at school. As you can see, a lot of renovation had occurred here. We opened up the hallways so that students would have free flow of traffic, and of course provided some really good classroom space for the students and another computer lab as well. You're looking at one of the rooms that were renovated in Building B for the Vet Tech program. We had 2 classrooms that were renovated. They were not used very well, and we made those into 3 classrooms. So you're looking at one of those, and obviously Vet Tech has received some of the needed space that they needed. Another one of the classrooms that was renovated in the Building B area, and this is a lab that was constructed for the Vet Tech program. This area was previously half a room, and then on the left side where you see the wall, that used to be a mezzanine where we had storage. And we repurposed this room for a full-size lab area for the Vet Tech program. We're now standing at the entrance to the Student Services area on the first floor of Building A, or the new Student Center. Construction and renovation started in this area back in 2013 in May of that year, and was completed in February of 2014. As you can see, totally renovated look from what we previously had, and serves our students very well. We're now standing at the very front entrance of the Student Center here at Ridgewater College. And you can see from the front entry here, we've got individuals waiting to answer any general questions that may come across for any of the students that arrive here at the college. As you pan over to the left, you can possibly see the new bookstore, which was previously in the old admin building. I think one of the biggest changes that we had here in the Student Center is the stairway. Before, we were pretty locked in on the staircases that we had available, and this really provides a nice access to the student services up on the second floor. We're now standing on the second floor at the Student Center, and as you can see, it's changed considerably from a couple years ago when we first started the renovation. We've added booths, obviously lots of tables here. The Student Center is behind us in this particular piece, but we really added a nice area where students can come, have a nice chat with friends and grab a cup of coffee, along with the renovated food service area as well. I'm really finding that this area has been very popular with students so far this semester. And here again is that view of the student services area, and this is actually student life. And in our previous building before the renovation, we had very few places for students to come and kind of relax and enjoy themselves. And so with the renovation, this is really a highlight that students can come on in and just have some time for themselves and enjoy a little camaraderie with their friends. And finally, we're here at the administrative building. As you can see, this is the area where we've got presidents and vice presidents This project started in the administrative building back in February, and substantial completion was obtained at the end of July. And you'll see that everything has obviously been revitalized in this area.
Well, we couldn't have had a better tour of Ridgewater College Wilmer campus's renovations. Dan Holtz was the guy in charge, so to speak, in charge of all of the capital improvements here. And Dan, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you very much for coming out. We appreciate showing all the renovation work we had out here.
So if you get a chance, stop on by and check it out for yourself. We are open. This is Bev on Do You Know?
It is Do You Know, and we are in studio today to talk about and remind you about the charter channel relocations of channels 8, 18, and 19, our public education and government channels for the city of Willmar. If you have charter as your cable provider, channel 8 is now channel 180, channel 18 is now channel 181, and channel 19 is now channel 188. Now, if you have Windstream, the channel locations are still the same. You still have channels 8, 18, and 19. But again, charter, channel 8 is 180, channel 18 is 181, and channel 19 is 188. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call here at the studio at 231-0594. You're watching Do You Know?
Hi, Jody Wambeck with the Willmar Early Childhood Family Programs and Early Childhood Initiative. Have lots of things to talk to you about today. First is our World of Wonder events, or our WOW events. The one in October is our annual event at the fire station. Come on down and join us for stories and seeing the fire trucks and equipment. The Growmobile will be there. There'll be all sorts of fun stuff for you and your children to do, so come on down and join us for that. Our November WOW event will be hosted by the Growmobile, and that will be out in Pennock. And we'll have more information out on that very soon. And then at the end of the month, we would love for you to join us for the Pumpkin Patch Carnival, which will be held at the Willmar Community Center. There'll be lots of fun activities for young children out there. And of course, the Spotlight Theater has lots of great stuff for young children. They're going to do a showing of Frozen. They're going to have a Make, Move, Shake, and Sing event. They're going to do a Make and Take puppets, and then there's going to be a Charlie Brown Christmas. So check all of those out online at www.willmarcer.com or in the Willmar Community Ed and Rec brochure. And then always check out what Kathy has going on at the library. She has a bunch of great stuff going on this month. You can check either the library website or our www.candykidsready.com website. All of that information is on there. And then, of course, if you have school-age children that you need care for, be sure to check out Cardinal Place. We still have openings there. You are watching Do You Know?
Good afternoon. This is Susan Matson. I'm here this afternoon with another master gardener, Becky West, and we're talking trees today. Becky and her husband live on a place near New London that has a wide assortment of trees. And she's going to tell us a little bit about the project that they had when they first moved out here to this very beautiful forested area.
So I wanted to start today showing you how densely packed these trees are. But when we bought this place in 1979, it was a cornfield. Two very much younger environmentalists bought this property and planted as many as 2,000 pine trees on a weekend. Most of the time, we were not even living in Minnesota. But this is the result of what can be planted one tree at a time. We all did it all by hand. I was crawling, putting in the trees. My husband was digging the holes. And this is the result.
Becky, I was just imagining what I would feel like after planting 2,000 trees. Were you sleeping in a tent out here?
No, as a matter of fact, I don't camp except in the Boundary Waters. We took motel rooms for that time.
I bet that hot shower or that hot bath felt very good. So right now we're going to move into the area around their home where they've also planted a lot of other different species of trees, and we'll take a look at those. Okay, we're here near Becky and Graydon's home where they've planted a wide variety of different trees. Becky's going to talk a little bit about some of the differences in pine or evergreen trees for those of you that might be interested in planting some of these, or at least when you're out in the field you can find them. So I'll turn this over to Becky now, and she can talk a little bit about her samples.
Well, first of all, I'd like to draw your attention to the weeping willow behind me. That is in a pruned form called coppice, and that is my attempt at having a palm tree, which is way beyond this particular zone. The coppice form requires that be pruned down to a stick every year, but I think it looks as close to a palm tree as Minnesota is going to have. Then to my right, the spruce tree is a weeping form, and that one is probably one of the most special trees that I have in my garden. My pattern has been to plant something, a rose, a flower, or a tree for someone in my family who was really important when they died. Before my mom died and we knew that she was dying because she had cancer, she asked me, "So, what kind of tree are you going to plant in my memory?" And I said, "Well, Mom, it has to be a weeping spruce because we have cried too much after we got your diagnosis." And she said to me, "That is the craziest thing I've ever heard of, but be sure you buy it from my money." So it's very special. It doesn't get more than about 18 to 20 inches wide, and this tree is approximately 13 years old, so it's really not going to be a huge tree. The other tree I wanted to draw your attention to is maple. This is a special maple. It's called a harlequin maple, and it has yellow on the edges of all the leaves. Some maples in the fall turn brilliant red. This one isn't so attractive in the fall, but I think it's beautiful through the season. And I have an example of the leaf we'll show you later. The other tree I wanted to point out is a horse chestnut. And this tree has multiple seasons of interest. In the spring, it's just covered with huge clusters of creamy yellow blossoms, and the bees absolutely adore it. Sometimes flowers in the early spring are difficult for bees to find, but this one is just a bee magnet. It's wonderful. This time of the year, it's covered with the little chestnuts that the squirrels love and plant all over. I love this tree. I found it in New London in a friend's garden when I was digging lilacs, and I brought it home only about 8 inches tall, and that was just a little over 15 years ago. So this is an example of the Harlequin maple close-up, and it shows the very yellow edges of the leaf. And it seems to maintain that. The only problem is if this tree turns green, then you have to get rid of that green, because the green is more vigorous and it will take over the yellow. It's sad to see these beautiful trees that are not inexpensive. It's pretty spendy, overtaken with green. I have some examples of evergreens. The reason that we have evergreens is because they maintain their green color, the evergreen, throughout the season. This is an example of a red pine. And we don't think about pines so much as having blossoms, but this is a blossom, or the male portion of what eventually should have become a cone, but apparently that was sterile. And then on this side you can see the cone, and these are food for numerous kinds of critters. This is a red pine, or a Norway pine, and you can see it has only 2 needles per fascicle. When the Norwegian settlers came, they thought this looked like a pine tree that they had remembered from Norway. So its name also is a Norway pine. My favorite deciduous is a white pine. And the white pine fascicles have multiples. There, I broke that apart. 3, 5, it changes. So I'm finding only only 2s. But trust me, that's how you, and then this is a much thinner pine, and I just remember how whispery that pine sounds when it's in the Boundary Waters. I just love it. The cone from that is very sticky, and you sure don't want to lean up against it, especially if you're on a camping trip, because there's no way to get that out of your hair. I speak from experience. Spruce is another kind of evergreen. I think they're beautiful. A lot of people use spruce as a Christmas tree. I'm not sure exactly what kind this one is. We also have a blue, and you can certainly see the difference, blue or green. And the spruce cones generally are pointing upright. Another kind of tree that a lot of people just really like to have for a Christmas tree is a fir. These in this particular area tend to be more expensive, but fir needles are flat, whereas the spruce needles are rounded. And it doesn't seem to shed as badly as what the spruce. And then, of course, we have cedar. This is an example of a red cedar. These tend to be fairly woody or weedy, and a lot of the wildlife areas, DNR is burning these off to get rid of them because they encroach and take the place of what would be native species. The reason it's called red is because later in the winter it actually turns kind of a bronze red. Then we have white cedar. Further north, this is a native. I planted this one, and this is just like candy for deer. They absolutely adore it. And I have a yellow-tipped cedar. I love variegated plants, and this happens to be one. So we've looked at some evergreens, but in this area we have one unique needle and cone-bearing, they're called conifer trees. This one is a tamarack, and this is a plant that loses all of its needles in the fall, and this one's getting ready. You can see it's a little bit gold. Some people call it Minnesota gold. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Actually, all pines or all evergreens lose their needles somewhat in the fall, but they're never completely bare. And then when we were looking at the leaves of some things, this is a mulberry. This is the when I was planting my fruit orchard, I was told that the best thing you can do is to plant mulberries. Well, that particular book was written by somebody from Iowa, which is a much warmer climate than what ours is. And I planted mulberry not knowing that it wasn't supposed to grow in this area, but it grows. And I just wanted to point out that the differences in the leaves, sometimes you wouldn't even recognize that one leaf is on the same species. Some of them are very segmented, some are barely segmented, and others have lots of lobes or segmenting capability. Why would we plant trees and shrubs and things like that? We plant them because we like to have critters. Much as I curse the deer that eat my garden, they're really wonderful. This is one of a kind of elderberry. This happens to be a fern leaf elderberry, and you can see there are almost no berries left on this, and that's because 2 days ago the catbirds came in and completely cleaned off all of the berries that were on that bush. We have multiple kinds of elderberry here just because the birds really adore them. And when we were talking about leaves, this is a white oak. It has very rounded leaves, and I don't have an example of a red oak. A red oak has leaves that are as sharply pointed as what the maple is, and it's probably not politically correct to say it, but the white oak with the rounded little lobes is because white men have bullets in their guns, and the red oak for the red men who have arrows.
Where did you hear that story, Becky?
I heard that from a Forester many years ago.
It must have been many years ago. I don't think we talk about it anymore. But that is an interesting way to know the two differences between the oak trees, the sharp-pointed lobes, which are the red oaks, and the gently pointed lobes, which are the white oaks.
And their acorns also are very pointed for the red or very rounded for the white.
Well, I've learned a lot from especially the different varieties of evergreens that you have. Is there anything else that you'd like to add this afternoon? I see we have something else, something that we call invasive.
This is an example of buckthorn, and while we plant trees for critters and wildlife, and this particular one has berries on it that persist through the winter, this is not an acceptable plant to have, even though it does promote food for wildlife. We try to have food for them in other ways. This is a plant that is really a big time bully, and we try to get rid of it as much as possible.
And if you go out to the state park, the Sibley State Park, you'll notice that they've been cutting and burning and getting rid of the buckthorn. So hopefully we'll see less of it in our woods in the future. Is there anything else that you can think of, Becky, this afternoon?
I'm just so glad that I could share my garden and my love of trees with people. So if I knew that I was going to die tomorrow, just like Martin Luther, I would plant a tree today.
I think I would too. So with that, we'll draw to a close for Do You Know? And we'll see you next month.